Sahas, what exactly is this ERPM or Act 16 exam issue? I've been hearing a lot of issues recently, especially on social media.
Well, the ERPM examination is basically a licensing examination, and it's conducted by the Sri Lanka Medical Council, the SLMC. And it's a mandatory examination that is conducted so that people who have obtained their MBBS degrees, so doctors who have obtained their MBBS degrees from foreign universities, can go through this licensing examination, which basically acts as a filter, and they must go through with it in order to practice medicine in either government or private capacity within Sri Lanka. That is how they obtain the rights to have an internship, and following that, in order to get their SLMC number.
May I ask, why is a separate examination necessary?
Well, because if you look at healthcare systems in different countries, they are different in very slight ways. And these ways, when it comes to a profession such as medicine, really matter. So, for example, if we think about the resource availability, treatment protocols, and even the clinical practices that we use every day, in different countries, these practices are different. So, we need to ensure that foreign graduates who enter Sri Lanka conform to the standards and protocols that we practice here. Hence, why we need such an examination to filter them through.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember right, I recall hearing that these exams used to be extremely difficult.
That is quite true. Around 2008, 2009, the pass rates for the examination were ranging from 34% to 46%. Now, afterwards, after a Supreme Court verdict, the rights to conducting this examination was taken from the SLMC and then handed to the University Grants Commission. Now, once that was done, the University Grants Commission decided that these candidates should sit through the same MCQ test that was given to state university students who were facing their final MBBS examination. So, once they sat through the same MCQ, the pass rates plummeted to around 6%, so single digits. So that was a massive hit as well.
And then, what happened?
So after 2009, as we previously mentioned, the pass rates dropped dramatically to around 6%. Later, the examination was returned to the SLMC. From 2014 onwards, the ERPM examination consisted of 4 parts. And the key clinical component involved long cases and short cases, using real patients under medicine, surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, and pediatrics.
So their knowledge too was being tested on actual patients, am I right?
Absolutely. Just like the final clinical examinations in Sri Lanka state medical universities, they were working with live patients. Candidates had to take histories, perform examinations, identify clinical signs, make diagnoses, and discuss management plans in real life situations.
Then what's the current issue? Why are medical students so concerned about the recent changes?
Well, in 2025, the SLMC replaced this traditional long case and short case system with 20 stations of OSCEs, or SKIs as we call them. They are objective, structured clinical examinations.
What's the difference between these two modes of examinations?
Well, OSCEs, you see, test very specific skills, but many clinicians and medical students argue that they don't adequately assess real-world bedside competence. See, long cases and short cases test whether a candidate is capable of evaluating and managing an actual patient from start to finish. Another concern is that under the new system, a candidate can fail any major discipline such as, say, medicine or pediatrics, but compensate for that with high marks in other disciplines and then get through the examination.
Well, that sounds like a significant loophole.
That's exactly what worries many people.
So, may I ask, were the recent results what triggered this controversy?
Yes, the results raised serious questions because in the March to April 2026, when this examination was held, 389 out of 417 candidates passed the clinical OSCE examination. Now, that's a pass rate of 94.42%.
Over 94%? Isn't that practically everyone?
Yes, and here's the striking part. Only 53% of these candidates passed the written theory examination.
Wait a second. Shouldn't the clinical examination be the more demanding part? As I believe, clinical training is the heart of medical education.
And that's exactly the concern. If a practical examination is significantly easier than a theory examination, as what's been happening here, then one must naturally begin to question whether it's functioning as an effective licensing exam. If we are not testing whether a person who is aspiring to become a doctor is competent in, as you rightfully mentioned, the heart of medical education, which is a proper clinical training, if we are not testing that, then what are we to test? How do we screen for proper capacity to manage a patient?
So, is the issue really about the recent pass rates, or is it actually about patient safety?
It is about patient safety. That is the central issue here. Because a licensing examination worldwide is designed to ensure that only candidates who meet a minimum standard are allowed to practice. For example, the UK's PLAB examination has pass rates of roughly 60% for both parts, not over 90%. The concern is that a newly qualified intern doctor and house officer, these people are the first people to make contact with patients. They're first point of contact, especially during emergencies. And they make important clinical decisions that will have long-term consequences for a person's life, for their well-being. So we need these people who make such high-stakes decisions to be capable of making them effectively and without making silly mistakes.
So, the question remains whether a clinical examination that has a pass rate over 94% is actually acting as a filter as it's supposed to do.
Exactly. The SLMC's primary responsibility remains the safeguarding of public health. Many believe that the current system should be reviewed to ensure the clinical competence that we expect is being seriously assessed. Because at the end of the day, this isn't an academic debate. This isn't about who has the highest pass rate. This isn't about disallowing foreign graduates to enter into practice within Sri Lanka. It is about maintaining a proper level of care for patients within Sri Lanka, maintaining the standards of our healthcare system, and letting only those who have demonstrated proper and sufficient practical clinical skills to enter the medical establishment in the first place to maintain our quality.
And ultimately, that's something that affects every patient, every person in the country.
Absolutely.